The wind carried the sound of the desert yawn, a long, hollow moan sweeping across a land of bones and heat. Dust rose from the ground like ghosts, curling around the feet of a man who walked alone. His name was Elias Crowe. The sun burned down on the brim of his hat. The leather cracked like the land beneath his boots. His horse had died 2 days ago. His canteen, almost dry. But he kept walking, always west, always towards something he couldn't name. Each step was a sentence in a story he never told. Once he'd been known in every saloon from Abilene to Carson Ridge, Elias Crowe, the Black Spurrows marksman, a bounty hunter with the cold patience of stone. Now only the desert knew him. Around his neck, tied with a strip of torn hide, hung a silver pocket watch, old heavy, engraved with a single letter, M. Every now and then, he thumbed the lid open. It hadn't ticked in years. Still, he listened to it like a man listens to confession. At the horizon, thunder rumbled. But it wasn't the kind that brought rain. Out here, thunder could be horses. He turned, scanning the wide emptiness, nothing but shimmering heat. Still, he felt it. The past had a way of riding faster than a man could run. He tightened the strap on his saddlebag and kept walking toward the faint shimmer of Silver Creek, where rumors said there was water new and maybe a place to disappear. By dusk, the wind shifted. The sky turned copper, then bruised purple. A shape emerged ahead. A small ranch house, lonely against the hills, smoke rising thinly from its chimney. Elias approached slow, his boots dragging through the dust. He called out once, Chananor, no answer. Again, yearned silence, save for a hoarse whinny behind the fence. Then the door opened. A woman stood there, Mae Whitlow, holding a shotgun like she'd held it all her life. Her face was shadowed by the fading light, but her eyes were steady. You lost, stranger? Her voice had the edge of someone who'd buried more than one dream out here. Elias tipped his hat. Just passing through, looking for a drink of water and a place to lay my shadow till morning. She studied him. His clothes were worn, but not desperate. His holster clean, his hands calloused, controlled. Something in him whispered danger, knee, and sorrow. There's a well-round back, she said. As for a roof, that depends on whether I can trust you not to steal the one I got. Mao wa mo, he said softly. I've had enough taken from me. Stealing ain't it in what is left. She nodded once, lowering the gun. Then you can sleep in the barn, but the horse gets the better straw. Ooh, fair trade. He walked past her porch, the boards creaking under his boots, and for the first time in months, maybe years, he felt the weight of silence that was not hostile, just human. Inside, Mae watched him go. Something in the way he moved, deliberate, careful, stirred a memory she didn't want to feel. Outside, the desert wind sang low against the windows, like a warning. That night, the Silver Creek Ranch slept under a bruised sky. The stars were dim behind the dust, and the air smelled of iron and dry grass. Elias lay in the barn, staring at the rafters, his revolver beside him. Through the gaps in the wood, moonlight spilled across the straw, none silver and trembling. From somewhere near the house, he heard faint humming. A woman's voice, soft, broken at the edges, carrying a tune older than the hills. It stopped and started a lullaby for no one. He sat up, pulled out the silver watch and opened it. The moonlight caught the engraving. M. His thumb brushed over the letter. You still following me, Hunio, he murmured. Even out here. The wind shifted again. For a heartbeat, it carried a faint sound of spurs, far off young metal against stone. Elias froze. Then he smiled. A small, grim thing. Guess I ain't it dead enough for the past to forget me. He slipped the watch back into his pocket, rolled a cigarette, and watched the smoke rise through the slats, vanishing into the dark. Morning came slow. The kind of light that crawled across the desert, hesitant and thin. Elias was already awake when Mae stepped outside, her shawl tight around her shoulders. He was sitting by the fence, cleaning his gun with quiet precision. The kind of ritual that came from years of habit, chum, or guilt. You sleep at all? Yeah, she asked. You're enough to dream, not enough to like it. Or she poured him coffee from a tin pot. Yeah, you talk like a man who's seen ghosts. I talk like a man who's trying to keep OM buried. Mae studied him again, her eyes catching the glint of metal at his chest. Is that watch? The one you keep touching on? Someone give it to you? Oh, yeah. No, she's still around. Elias paused. The desert wind filled the silence. In a way, everything out here leaves a mark none, if it meant something. Then faintly from far across the plain came the low, distant rumble of hooves. Mae turned her head. That sound, Elias rose, squinting into the horizon. A dark cloud of dust was rising from the east, small, but fast. Riders? Oh, he said quietly. How many? Each us enough to bring trouble. The air thickened, dry, electric. Somewhere a storm was gathering, not in the sky, but in the bones of the land. Elias holstered his gun, his expression unreadable. Mae, oh, he said, if I were you, I'd start thinking about which doors you want to lock and which ones you cannot. She looked at him and for the first time, she realized the stranger she let into her ranch wasn't just running from something. He was running ahead of it. The wind rose again, carrying dust and whispers of iron and blood. The letter M glimmered on the watch, catching the first light of dawn like an omen. The sun had barely touched the horizon when Elias rode into Redstone Town, a lonely trail of dust rising behind him. The once bustling mining town had decayed into silence. Only the creak of a sign reading Redstone Saloon swung weakly in the wind. He tied his horse, Ash, to the post, his eyes scanning the streets where ghosts of the past seemed to drift. Inside the saloon, the piano was broken, and the whiskey tasted of rust. A few old miners looked up, eyes squinting, unsure if the man before them was a memory or a threat. From the corner, a voice rasped, "Well, I'll be damned. Elias Crowe back from the dead?" Elias didn't turn immediately. He knew that voice near Clint Rourke, once a fellow bounty hunter, now a drunk who sold information for coin. Elias, "There I came for supplies, don't start trouble." Clint, "Trouble? You already brought it, old friend. Word is out, and the Black Spurs are back in Dust Valley. They're hunting for someone who owes OM blood." The glass froze in Elias's hand. He didn't need to ask who that someone was. As thunder rolled far off in the desert, Clint leaned closer. "Clint, you cannot outrun what you did in El Dorado. They remember." Elias, "So do I, oh." He left a silver coin on the counter and walked out, the saloon's door swinging like a heartbeat behind him. By the time Elias reached Silver Creek Ranch, dusk had painted the land in crimson and shadow. Mae was outside, fixing a fence broken by the storm. When she saw him, her face softened, but her eyes stayed guarded. "Mae, you look like you've seen a ghost." Elias, "So maybe I have. The Black Spurs, not there close." So she stopped, the hammer trembling in her hand. "Mae, you told me they were gone." Elias, "So did I, but devils don't stay buried in the sand." The wind carried the scent of dust and fear. From the horizon, 3 riders emerged, 9 silhouettes black against the dying light. Elias reached for his revolver. "Mae, what are you going to do?" "Oh." Elias, "What I should have done years ago." The riders stopped at the edge of the property, silent. One of them, a tall figure with a black duster and silver spurs, Maz lifted his hand in greeting that wasn't friendly. Leader, shouting, "Risha Crowe, we've been looking for you. You've got something that is ours." Elias said nothing. His thumb rested on the hammer. The leader smiled, a cruel grin that glinted like steel. "Leader, we'll come back at sundown tomorrow. You'd best be ready, or Shio," he nodded toward Maine, "will pay your debt." The riders turned and vanished into the burning sky. Night fell heavy. Elias sat by the hearth, staring at the old pocket watch in his hand. Honeyed its surface scarred, but the engraving still clear. In M9 until the last light fades. Mae watched him from across the room, the firelight dancing in her eyes. "Mae, who was she?" Elias, "Someone I couldn't save. Oh, he told her finally the truth. Years ago, he had ridden with the Black Spurs, 9 bounty hunters turned outlaws. Their greed had led to a massacre in El Dorado Canyon. Innocents died. Among them was a woman named Marianne, the only person who'd ever believed Elias could be better. The watch had been hers. Elias. Sheriff, I left them that night, took this watch, and her memory. Oh, Mae. And now they've come to take it back. Oh, Elias. No, they've come to finish what I started. A storm began to rumble outside, yes, not rain, but the restless wind that always rose before a sandstorm. Mae knelt beside him, her voice steady. Mae, you cannot fight them alone. Elias. And I've been alone all my life. Mae, then let me stand with you, at least once. Oh, the silence that followed said everything words could not. By midnight, the storm hit. Sand howled across Silver Creek, turning the world into a blur of golden grit. The horses screamed in their stables. Lanterns flickered like dying stars. Elias moved through the chaos, checking rifles, counting bullets. Mae secured the barn doors, her hair whipped by wind and firelight. Suddenly, above the roar of the storm came another sound. Faint but unmistakable knuck hoofbeats. Elias froze. Elias whispering, "They are here." Lightning split the sky, and in that flash, he saw them, Ursus 6 riders, black shapes cutting through the sandstorm, their torches burning like eyes of the damned. He grabbed Mayor's hand, pulling her toward the cellar door. Elias, "It's down! Now! Oh, Mae, what about you?" Elias, "It's all by us time." Oh? The cellar door slammed shut. Elias stepped out into the storm, revolver drawn, the wind tearing at his coat. Through the haze, the leader-wire's voice rose again, neon smooth, venomous. "Leader, Crowe, the desert remembers, and so do we." Elias fired the first shot. Thunder answered. The sandstorm swallowed them whole. The air over Silver Creek had turned heavy, thick with stillness. Knocking that kind of silence that comes before a storm decides who deserves to live. For days, Elias Crowe had sensed it, in the way the wind stalled mid-afternoon, in how even the horses refused to drink. The desert wasn't quiet. It was holding its breath. Mae Whitlow watched the horizon from the porch, her apron dusted with flour. The bread she'd been baking sat half-risen, forgotten. Elias was mending a fence rail, but his hands had stopped moving long before she spoke. "You feel it too?" He nodded once. His eyes were on the far ridge, where a single dust plume was cutting through the dying light. A rider, black horse, silver spurs flashing like teeth. And in that moment, Mae knew Nash, the past Elias had tried to bury, had just found its way home. When the rider drew closer, the light hit his face, a grin carved from sin and memory. Kane Mercer. He reined in his horse with the ease of a man who'd done worse things in better weather. "I didn't think I'd find you here, Crowe, raising fences and chickens. Thought you only raised hell." Oh, Elias didn't move. His hand rested by his hip, inches from the revolver. "You took your time. Oh, had to make sure the stories were true," Kane said. "That Elias Crowe, nah the devil's own hand, no was playin' farmer." His voice carried a taunt, but also a tremor known, the kind that comes when men share too much blood and guilt. They had once ridden together under the Black Spurs, Neen bounty hunters, who stopped pretending to care who was guilty. Then came Carson's job, a train robbery gone wrong. 6 men died, the gold vanished, and Elias, sick of the killing, walked away. Kane never forgave him. He dismounted now, boots grinding gravel. "When the law's asking no questions, old friend, sheriff's digging around Carson's ghost. I came to tidy up before your name gets spoken too loud." Oh, Elias's voice was low. "So you came to kill me? Oh, no. Oh," Kane smiled. "Whereas I came to remind you who you are. Oh," from the porch. Mayor's hand tightened around the rifle. She didn't understand every word, but she didn't need to. Yeah, the tone was enough. Kanan's gaze flicked toward her. "Yaron, she yours? Oh, she was her own?" "Oh, no," Elias said evenly. "Always did like your taste. Shame she'll be crying over ash before dawn." Elias stepped closer, his shadow crossing Kanan's. "Leave, Mercer." O'Kane smirked. You don't tell the storm when to leave, Crow. You just hold on till it's done with you. Then he was gone, swallowed by dusk and dust. But Elias knew he'd be back. Men like Cain always came back. That night, Elias rode through the wasteland toward Redstone Town, the wind biting at his coat like claws. Every hoofbeat echoed the same word in his chest. Reckoning. The town was half asleep, lanterns swaying on rusty hooks, the smell of whiskey and rain-soaked dust hanging in the air. The sheriff, non-Tom Avery, old friend and older sinner, were on set behind his desk, cleaning a lantern that didn't need cleaning. When Elias entered, the man didn't look surprised. You still carrying no ghosts? The sheriff asked. Cain Mercer rose in Silver Creek, Elias said. Then the storm's already here. He rummaged in a drawer and pulled out a rusted tin badge, an Elias' old one. You left this behind when you walked out. Didn't stop the law from following you? Elias looked at the badge, then at the wanted poster pinned behind the desk. His own name, faded, crossed out. The ink still read, Closed D, no longer under pursuit. World forgot your crimes, Tom said, but not the men who bled for YM. YM, not running one anymore. Oh, Elias murmured. Then you best finish it clean. Before leaving, Elias asked, You still believe men like us can change? Oh, the sheriff gave a tired smile. Should he change? Maybe, but the dust remembers every footprint. Outside, thunder rolled across the valley like a growl. By the time Elias returned to Silver Creek, the world had turned red. Not from sunset, nigher from fire. The barn was burning, a roar of orange and black against the stars. Cain Mercer stood in front of it, backlit by flame, coat whipping in the wind. His eyes gleamed like glass, nush and beautiful and empty. I warned you, he called. You can't build a home on bones. Elias dismounted slowly. And you can't bury guilt with more blood. The two men faced each other, nodding still, statues in the firelight. Wind howled, bending the flame sideways. Somewhere a horse screamed. Cain reached for his gun, the motion slow, deliberate numb, like a ritual. Elias did the same. For a heartbeat, the world stopped breathing. Then one thunder. Gunfire. Silence. Cain staggered. Smoke coiled from the hole in his chest. He laughed, blood on his teeth. Guess you finally aimed straight, Crow. He fell to his knees, the dust already swallowing him. Elias stood still for a long moment, watching the fire devour what was left of their past. Mae appeared behind him, eyes wide with fear and something worse, gnawing sorrow. He turned to her. Get inside. Storm's coming. The sandstorm arrived like judgment itself. Wind screamed through Silver Creek, ripping the earth open. The house groaned. Glass shattered. The world turned to sand and fury. Elias dragged Mae into the cellar, the air thick with dust and fear. They huddled close, the only light a flickering lantern trembling on the beam. Tell me it'll pass, she whispered. Everything passes, he said. Even storms. You said that before, I was hoping it'd sound true the second time. Outside, the wind howled like 1,000 ghosts clawing at the door. Inside, silence became a fragile prayer. Mae pressed her forehead to his chest. You could have run, Elias. Ran all my life. Didn't get me far. Then why stay? He looked at her. The woman who'd given him the first reason to live since the world went black. And because this time, there was something worth staying for. The lantern flickered out. They held on to each other as the storm screamed above, the earth shaking like an angry god. When the light finally came, it was pale, thin, the color of forgiveness. Silver Creek was gone. The barn, the fences, the crops, buried beneath a sea of dust. Elias stepped outside, boots sinking into sand that still smelled of fire. The silence was so deep it rang. He walked to the well, found the pocket watch half buried near the stones. The same one he'd kept all these years lying engraved with a single letter. Mae joined him, her hair tangled, face streaked with soot. It's still ticking, oh, she said softly. He turned it in his palm, the metal warm from the sun. You know what the M stood for? Odioro or Mercer? Oh, she guessed. He smiled, small and tired. Used to, but maybe now it stands for May. Oh, she laughed, and that laugh, knee broken, beautiful knowing carried through the valley like the first bird song after rain. They stood together as the sun rose over the wasteland, painting the world gold again. Behind them, the ruins of Silver Creek shimmered like bones under light. Before them, the road stretched endless and waiting. Where do we go now? Mae asked. Elias looked at the horizon, the dust still swirling faintly. Anywhere the wind don't remember my name. The wind picked up again, gentle this time. The pocket watch ticked steady, unbroken, and somewhere far off, thunder rolled once more, one, not a warning, but a memory. The dawn came slowly over Redstone. The sandstorm had passed, leaving behind a pale silence. The streets, once soaked in blood and dust, now shimmered faintly under the morning light. The gallows creaked gently in the wind. A hat rolled across the road like a ghost of the night before. Sheriff Calder moved quietly through the debris. He found 3 bodies by the well, 2 of Kanaw's men, 1 unknown. He lifted the stranger's arm, and a glint of metal caught his eye. A pocket watch cracked, its glass fogged with blood and sand. He turned it over. The initials were faint, carved deep by a hand that wanted to be remembered. M&W-O, Mae Whitlow A.O., he whispered. He'd heard stories, Rai, the woman who once ran the Silver Creek Ranch, the wanderer who'd come back from nowhere, the night the desert howled. But stories had a way of shifting in Redstone. Sometimes they were true swearing dust. Calder slipped the watch into his pocket and looked west, toward the horizon. A single rider was there, small and fading. Nus Elias Crowe, or what remained of him, heading toward Dust Valley. No one followed. By noon, Elias reached the edge of Silver Creek Ranch. The air smelled of wet dust and burned gunpowder. The barn leaned tiredly to one side. Half of the roof had caved during the storm. The creek itself had swelled from the rain, silver and restless. He dismounted slowly, each step heavier than the last. His coat was torn, his arm still bleeding, but his eyes cold and empty. He seemed older than the desert. Inside the cabin, the world was unchanged. Mayor's shawl still hung on the chair. Her cup was on the table, a ring of dried coffee circling its edge. Dust floated lazily through shafts of light, as if time itself had stopped to breathe. Elias sat where she once did. He took the pocket watch from his vest, knew her initials, W.O., faint but eternal one, and wound it one last time. The ticking sound filled the silence, soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat buried beneath wood and memory. He spoke softly, as though she were still there. You said Silver Creek was a place where things start again. Maybe that's true for everyone except me. Oh, he placed the watch on the table, next to her cup. Then he reached into his coat and drew his revolver, not to fire, not to end, but to clean. He dismantled it carefully, piece by piece, until it was just metal and silence. When he was done, he put the gun into the drawer. Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying faint echoes of hoofbeats, laughter, and Mae's voice calling his name through the storm. He smiled, barely knew the kind of smile that carries more sorrow than tears. Weeks later, a trader passing through Redstone told a story to the saloon crowd. They said a stranger lived out by Silver Creek again, so tall, quiet, eyes like the storm. Some swore he was a ghost. Others said he was still alive, waiting for something that would never come. They say he rides out at sundown, the trader whispered. Always west, always alone, never looks back. The bartender, an old man missing 2 fingers, nodded slowly. Yeah, oh, he said, polishing a glass. That's the way of the West. Folks don't die here, and they just fade into the dust. Outside, the sun was setting. The land burned gold and red, stretching endless into nowhere. A single silhouette rode across the horizon, his shadow long against the sand. As he passed the old wooden sign, Nyasha Silver Creek Rancho, Nyasha, he tipped his hat like a farewell to everything that once was. The wind rose again, carrying the faint ticking of a pocket watch, orange steady, eternal nigh, and a voice that seemed to linger in the air. You cannot bury what still remembers you. The sound faded with the last light, leaving only the whisper of hooves, the shimmer of dust, and the legend of Elias Crowe, the wanderer of Silver Creek, the man who outlived his own sins, but never his love.